What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Talkin Wellness, presented by South Florida Wellness Network. My name is Christian.
I'm Kayla.
It's your boy, Michael. How we doing?
And welcome to another wonderful episode. So we're keeping the pattern going in our monthly series, Mental Health Matters. Last week, we had the family perspective. If you didn't have a chance to check that out, please do. It's a wonderful episode. And this week, actually, before I get to the theme of today, we got a couple of updates. Guys, we're at 94 subscribers.
Woo, woo,
94 subscribers.
Almost 100. We're breaking those 3 digits.
Yep, we're almost at 3 digits, which is huge, right? Because we've been talking about this since last year, how much we want to hit that number. So please share the podcast with your friends, with family, with coworkers, with anybody you know. We want to get this to 100 definitely by the end of the year. Because like we always say, we want to keep spreading wellness and positivity to everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
and everyone. So we have that. And we're at last time I checked, we're at 3,000 total views across the entire channel.
Woo.
On YouTube, which is kind of wild. You know, 3,000, or at least our videos have been viewed approximately 3,000 times. And I don't know why. That just sounds really, really cool.
No, it's awesome for sure.
And it's still counting. So it's all really, really interesting.
We thank you all. We love you. All 94 of you subscribers and sharers of the YouTube link.
Every single one of you, of our audio listeners who also come every week and just listen on Apple Music, Spotify, we hear you, we see you, and we love you as well, because those numbers are going really, really good.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So we can't wait to keep going, and we're so excited for what comes next. Anyways, today we're going to continue Mental Health Matters. Last week was the family perspective, and this week is the young adults perspective, which is a perspective that we don't get to hear often from. You know, I feel that a lot of times, especially when, and I've been doing some research on podcasts, on different wellness stuff, and everybody loves talking about adults, children, teenagers, but the young adult perspective is almost never spoken of. And so we're really excited to do this episode because it shines a light on a group that, you know, I'm a part of that group, and we don't get talked about a lot, you know, in terms of mental health and in terms of wellness. So I'm excited, and we brought 2 amazing guests, amazing in every sense of the word, to speak on this topic. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and what you do here at South Florida Wellness Network, starting with you.
All right, guys. I'm Joncarlos, or JC. I've been working here for not too long. I'm a peer specialist for the youth. So all my participants are from 12 to 29. Yep. So I kind of get those low teens and then those like kind of getting out of that young adult section. So it's kind of fun.
Awesome. I'm Nikki, and I'm the youth supervisor. Yeah. So this is going to be fun. I started from where Joncarlos was as a peer specialist, and I've been able to work my way up. So I've been in the field for a while. I've been here for 3 years, so I'm excited for this.
Yeah. So obviously there's a ton of questions we want to get into, and a ton of different perspective, right? Because that's the purpose of this series, is we want to get perspective on your views on mental health. We just happen to have the experience where we work with young adults who also have shared their perspective. So maybe we can provide some extra perspective, not only our lives, but maybe some things that we've heard from participants that we've worked with in the past. Obviously, we're never going to share names. We're never going to share specific information, but generalized ideas and concepts and feelings shared. For example, and I think this is a great way to start our conversation, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen with some of the participants that I'm working with is, after high school, what do I do now, right? Because some people decide to go the college route, but some people don't. And there's this big fear, right, where we there's not a lot of like, I have no idea what to do next. So I would love to hear some perspective here. What are your thoughts on that? The fear of what comes next. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I can start on it just to give you guys a general idea of where to go, a baseline of the topic of the conversation. I mean, I guess I'm not even really considered. I don't know if I'm even considered a young adult anymore. I'm 29.
You are.
Turning
You're
30
right there.
So
You read a
so I'm up there. I've been an adult for a bit now. So I've gotten to
How's that been working?
It's been working. I've gotten to like see how it is to like have the perspective of having to pay your bills and having to have responsibility thrust upon your shoulder. You know, I've been fortunate to have a great family and a great support system, obviously, to help me along the line. So I guess I can start from like just a quick synopsis of my journey right after high school, just to go from there. I had a pretty solid idea what I was doing. I had a scholarship to go play soccer, so I did that. Did great with soccer, but my thing was I really didn't like school, so I skipped a lot of classes and did a lot of things I probably shouldn't have done. And if I had hindsight 2020, I probably wouldn't have done that. So all the physical things that I had done right were undone by all the things that I was doing wrong academically, and just from lack of trying and lack of care. So that got me thrown out of that situation, or at least my scholarship. I lost my scholarship, came back home, and then you kind of have to adapt to like living life back the home way of like how everybody else is, how your friends are, you know, Broward College, picking up a job, just picking up normal responsibilities. So that was interesting. So I've worked a bunch of jobs, quit a bunch of jobs, you know, done a bunch of different stuff. It's definitely been more of a flip-flop kind of life, as opposed to if I probably was to have more of a structured, go to college and just finish up my school, get a job kind of thing. So I would say I don't have any regrets in life. But obviously that was a mistake, you know, that's something I probably shouldn't have done. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have, but I wouldn't consider it a regret, if that makes any sense. Because I'm very grateful for my life now and where I am. And I understand that like you make those mistakes and it could get you to possibly a better position than you would have ever been doing those things. So I guess that's my position, you know, where I am now. So I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I was coming out of high school, I kind of had a general idea of what I wanted to do, but I didn't hold myself to a standard of like, I need to go to a specific college. Like I was set going to Broward College. Like I was well prepared. I was like, I'm going to just do my general degree and just get things done to lead me to wherever it is that I'm going, because I didn't have an idea. I didn't have that at all, because it's easy to say one thing and have this perfect vision, but trying to get it there when you're not fully into it it's challenging. So I didn't hold myself hostage to what I wanted my future to be.
Well, because I think you're still developing with like who you are. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about that, you know, for a second, real. Because it's like, how do I know who I am and what do I want by the age of 18? Because in America, that's what it looks like. You go to school and you graduate, and then you're supposed to know, like, this is what I'm going to do for my forever job. Yeah. When you haven't even had experience just, like, trying a bunch of different things.
100%.
Yeah. So let's talk to Joncarlos, because he's, like, fresh out, man. He's got good perspective.
For me, it was, like, a little odd because both my parents are dropouts. Got their GEDs, and then my older sister is the first one, like, out of everybody who went to college. So then we're like, all right, we're following her path. My other older sister goes to college as well, following her path. And then it comes to me, I'm like, I don't like school. I graduated with like over 300 class absences. I was never there, like, ever. So for me, it was like, I'm not gonna like put myself through the struggle or the torture of like, all right, I'm gonna go to school and work on a degree I don't want to do. And so for me, I'm more like, I knew I like hands-on, I like building things, like, you know, putting things together. So for me, I was like, all right, I'm just going to like work on my certificates rather than do this. And I could like kind of work my way around it rather than putting myself through a torture.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because when you think about like, I've just committed like the first, you know, whatever, 18 years of my life to like, you know, studying in a school setting, focusing on different subjects that may not be like as interesting to me. Like maybe in that process, you've learned something through obviously like the school journey, but becoming an adult is like, there's so much pressure put on that, like at 18, when you finish high school, like you've got to have it figured out. And I think that in itself can cause a lot to somebody's mental health.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it's like, I guess depending on what family you grow up in, that like 17 to 18 or 18 to 19 could be like extremely catastrophic for some people. Because some people, you know, you're going from high school like 14 to 18, and then all of a sudden it's just like there's no structure of a routine where I'm going to school every day. It's like I got to either get a job, I got to either go to school. And if you don't have the support system of people like that have maybe not gone to college and done all these things, or don't even care if you do that, or don't care anything about what you do with your life, it's going to be hard for you to do that. And that's, unfortunately, that's the reality for a lot of people. You know, I think a lot of the people here on this podcast have maybe had more positive support systems. But I've seen, you know, like friends, you know, that have come from Ecuador because they had no opportunities, and they slept on another friend that they met in high school's, you know, like
Couch or
couch,
whatever,
like
yeah.
floor for years and years and years. And now, you know, I saw him. I'm thinking of a specific person, and I saw him. He's 32 now, and he just reunited with his family in Ecuador, like 2 days ago, after not seeing them for 20 years or something.
Wow.
Because it was an opportunity they see as, obviously, coming to the United States. It's a big opportunity for people, and I think like it's just crazy to see how like some people can make like big changes in their life like that. And then like when us, like let's say people in America, when you're 18 and you don't grow up in these systems of like support, you're just like, what do I do? You don't,
Yeah.
you're so distracted with social media and so many different things that you don't know how to take advantage of like the actual opportunities that we do have. So it's such a weird
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that too, like when you're coming out of high school and stuff, I feel like that's when you start really recognizing the mental health challenges that you were facing in school that
Yeah.
you didn't necessarily know because you were a young person. And I'll bring it back to like culturally. Sorry, we got the baby crying. Culturally, I grew up with a background where my dad is from Jamaica. He grew up there, so I don't know if you guys know. But culturally, that's not, mental health isn't a big thing that's discussed among that. And so I grew up with my dad a lot of the time, and I just didn't understand what I was experiencing, and neither did he. Like, he'll say, oh, if you're experiencing mental health, like, you're that defiant kid, and not understand the underlying things that are going on there. So I didn't know personally understand it until I was much older, and then I started understanding. And looking back in high school, I can see it where it was present, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
What
just
did that
thought-
look like though? Like what, when you think about like your mental health journey and when you started to become aware of it. So obviously it was happening in high school, but in hindsight is when you were able to really put language to it to say, this is what my struggle was. But what was that struggle? Like, where did you see differences in your mental wellness?
Well, a lot of it, I struggled a lot with like body imaging situations where like a lot of people don't even know I had an eating disorder throughout high school and things like that. And it's just something you kind of think is normal because a lot of girls at that age experiencing that because you're coming into your body. And I was told at the age of 16 that was my peak. Like, this is when you're going to be the most beautiful you'll ever be. And like being told those things as like a young woman is yeah, you know, it's like, oh my God, I need to get things done now, you know? And so, yeah, those are the things that I see when I look back at it. And I'm just like,
Yeah, so culture plays
kind of like a weird thing
big
to say.
part.
Your 16s
No,
is
for
your
real.
peak.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
but I think
child.
that's cultural.
kind of underage, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that. Obviously, you hear like 25, you know, cut off 23, but 16 is crazy. That's literally a legal age. I mean, I've never heard that before in my life. But I understand how like Nikki is my sister, guys. So I understand what she's saying as far as like I grew up with her dad as well in Caribbean cultures and understanding how like when they are young and they do seem to be a prettier girl, they do seem to compliment that and be like, they put that forth more than any other accomplishment they do in their life. Like, let's say Nikki was a soccer star or whatever. If someone saw her, they'd be like, oh, you're so pretty. That would be the first thing. So that's definitely more of the significance. I think that follows in those roles or those communities for sure.
Right,
Yeah,
beauty.
100%.
Beauty is kind of at the forefront. And so there's this pressure for young people that like, I have to be beautiful
For sure.
to be accepted.
For
And
sure.
this is why eating disorders are so prevalent among young people. And it's not just young women, it's also young men too.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's this pressure. And then so we see it culturally. But then the biggest thing, what happened, you know, in 2011, or I think it was, or 2000, I don't know, whatever. In the 2000s,
Social
smartphones, social
media.
media became more prevalent,
Absolutely.
which put a whole new pressure on people to say like, I have to look a certain way. Right.
And it also ties back into like I wasn't the best student due to my mental health. Like, well, first I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid condition that actually causes you to. Part of the side effects is like you're really tired a lot of the time. So I just didn't pay attention in school. I didn't know like the different learning aspects of how you can learn differently and people are taught differently. Like. So I was like, oh, well, I'm not good at education, so I at least need to have my looks to get me far in life because if I don't have that knowledge, then
piece.
I need this piece, you know, to be able to excel in life. So
Isn't that crazy though? Like we will mark children, like the education system, because there's like really one way of teaching. And if you don't fit into this box, you mark a child and then they carry that and it ties into their self-worth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I kind of get what you guys mean. My family is very Dominican, and even though
What do you mean by very?
They're not Dominican. They're very Dominican.
No, like for real. Like
I feel
you
you,
hear
though. I
the
feel
music
you.
outside my house on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Bro, like,
All right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like even though like I was very clearly born in the U.S. Like I say that because
Your accent.
yeah, like I don't sound like I came from the campo or anything like
Yeah.
that. But the same thing. Beauty is a very big thing. Even in guys, like when I kind of realized that was like driving me, that's when I started making differences in my own appearance. Like my clothes. Like if I didn't have the nicest shoes in school, I was the loser. I was getting bullied, and then it turned into like when I finally got phones later because we were kind of like didn't have the money for that. When I finally got my phone, now it's like I'm in school. I have bad shoes. I'm a loser. I went home.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all the nice shoes. I'm still a loser. Like I can't get away from it now. So it's like it's something like that. Whereas I see what you mean with the cell phones. It's definitely
It's
like,
always
a really
trying
big
to keep
problem.
up culture.
Yeah, it's keeping
It's
up.
FOMO culture. It's fear of missing out. Like you can't keep
But it's
up.
identity
it's all
too.
that.
It's like you are trying to figure out like where you belong in the world at that age, like, in that middle school, high school age. And so you are so more susceptible to like peer pressure and like wanting to do things to fit in or look a certain way because you haven't yet figured out like that, man, you're worthy just as you are.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter about a shoes or like a phone or what you look like and all that stuff. But because society puts such a pressure on those things, I think that's why right now we're seeing like mental health among young people is like skyrocketing, and you see suicide rates skyrocketing, substance use skyrocketing. Like all of these things are some of the challenges I think are rooted in a lot of how we kind of societally like create these pressures.
Yeah, I mean, I know in high school I probably would have benefited from going to therapy, but I feel like there's a stigma behind like if you're a youth and you're in therapy, like there's something wrong with you.
you're part of the
Like,
Loonies.
yeah, exactly. Like you got that crazy stigma of like, why are you in therapy? Like that was a normal thing if you had gone through something that was significantly traumatic, maybe like a loss of a family member or something. But just to deal with, oh, I have anxiety and depression. Like, it's like, well, what are you depressed about? You have a roof over your head and food in your mouth. And it's those stigmas of, like, not wanting to speak up about it.
Yeah, when I was in, not necessarily high school, I kind of, like, dropped it in high school. But when I was in middle school, I was in therapy. And I was in therapy for most of my life because when my dad left, the courts kind of gave me and my siblings, therapists. So, and that, like, to me, it helped, like, a bunch. I used to have, like, really big lashing out and everything, and therapy is like a big thing to help me. But then when people in school found out I had like a therapist, they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you crazy?
So,
Yeah, there's a big stigma
stigmas.
behind that,
Yeah.
especially in schooling systems for sure.
I mean, I do feel like it's something that's becoming a little more normalized now. Like, people are beginning to speak out more on the effects of mental health and their challenges with it.
Do you think it's becoming too much nowadays now? Do you think people are overdoing it or almost manipulating it? Just a
Okay.
question.
But, okay.
Devil's advocate question.
Yeah, but here, okay. So
Because there's a lot of like people
I
out
see
here.
why
that-
I see why you say that.
I mean,
I do too.
let me get one example. Like, there's people that will. I'm sure there's tons of people that have ADHD nowadays because of social media. But let's say if you do get, clinically, I don't know what's the word, diagnosed for that, then what happens? You usually receive medicine, right? So I'm saying, like, necessarily, does everybody need that?
Right. No.
The
Okay.
medicine
So
aspect or the
yeah.
diagnosis?
Does everybody need to like take it to the next level like that?
No, I think every person is different, right? But so here's my thought process on it, because I do think that yes, mental health is being spoken about and it's being more prevalent, but I still think that people that are experiencing it, when they're experiencing it, feel that stigma and are not talking about it when they're experiencing it. They're doing it in hindsight. You guys are on this podcast talking about it because you're already past that hump. But what was happening when you were experiencing it? You were getting the stigma. You were feeling like there was something wrong with you and all that stuff. So yeah, I think people are talking about it, but I feel like still young people are struggling to like voice it out of that like fear of rejection and judgment and stigma and shame.
And I do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to share some statistics because now that we're talking about mental health, we briefly touched on suicide.
Yeah.
And I was doing a little bit of research right now. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention worked with the CDC to get these numbers. In 2021, they did a study. They tested a couple groups of 100,000 individuals. And what they found in that study was that adults aged to 25 to 34, about 19.5 individuals for every 100,000 were taking their lives among the ages of 25 to 34. And then from 15 to 24, 15.15 out of every 100,000. So I'm not sure what the percentage is. I can't do quick math like that, but one is a lot.
That's too many.
One is too many.
Yeah.
But what the point that I was trying to connect this with was the idea that obviously mental health is becoming a problem, but a common issue in suicide is when people don't feel that they can share how they're feeling, or that fear that you're talking about. So I would love if we could get it to that conversation really, briefly. Why, maybe not the why, but how do we combat that idea of fear of communication or fear of sharing how we're feeling? Because again, going back to the peers that I've worked with, that's a common problem.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on like who it is that you're going to, because in high school, like I did end up meeting someone that I was able to open up, and that was like one of my first experiences about like really discussing how I was feeling and kind of touching on it. And the person's they received it so well, and it was such a great conversation. And at the time, I'm like 16 years old, and I had, like my first boyfriend or whatever, and I thought I could have that same type of conversation with him. But then it turned into, why are you depressed? This guy at the store is working and he has an amputated arm, and there's people out there that are having so much worse things going on. And it kind of made me feel like crap inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of like puts you back in your shell. And so I think it's more of like who you're communicating to, because that can make the difference. Like if you talk to somebody who is receiving it, and it really empowers you to be like, okay, I can take control. But if you talk to somebody who's gonna be like, well, I don't know what your problem is, you're going to look back on yourself, and that self-doubt is going to creep into your mind, and you're going to be like, it's just me. And then you isolate yourself because you're like, I'm the problem.
And parents do that all the time too.
Oh my
and I don't
goodness.
know that they
Understand. They tough love.
Yes.
Or even if they realize they do it.
I don't think they realize that. I don't think they're like, I'm intentionally trying to harm my child. But like when there's that window of opportunity where your child is like expressing their feelings, they just need to be like heard, to feel seen, to know that they're loved. And that's normal, right? Because if I go back and look at my childhood, man, the ideas and thoughts that I had in my mind were like wild. But I never felt like I could really share like how I was feeling inside or the pain that I was having inside. So I did things like self-harming as a way to relieve my pain that was happening internally, And so I think there's so much power in that, with like just saying like, man, like people just need to be heard. And it's not about like, oh, well, this person's going through something worse and blah, 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 because that's the first way that you're going to shut somebody down.
Yeah, no, so I think the two biggest things are comparison is always going to leave somebody feeling a certain way. Like if I compare myself to Mike Hill, if I'm better at something, he's going to feel a certain way. Or if he's better at something, I'm going to feel a certain way.
So we're talking a lot about young adult mental health, and I love this conversation that we're having, where we got into high school, we got into a little bit about social media, we got a little bit into the statistics. I'm just curious here. I think we've all noticed a elevation, if you will, a rise of this happening as the years goes on. But I'm curious, what do you guys think is like a catalyst for all this like sudden raising of mental health challenges in young adults?
You touched on social media, which is, I think, a big contributor, and also the quarantine. Because, like, as social media came in, it was a gradual, like, come in. Quarantine was like, boom, like, that was...
The world is ending.
Yeah.
Everyone...
No one knew...
Cut.
Yeah.
Like,
no one knew what was happening.
Movies cut, music cut, everything
School cut.
Yeah, like social interaction was completely cut off.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big attributor to like social anxiety is a big thing I see among young people now.
Look at all the stuff that goes on in like prisons with like being locked up or being socially isolated or all those I know it's different than obviously COVID, but we were all kind of locked in rooms, locked in
Like a
houses,
sample
locked
of it.
away, and that's gonna do a lot for your mental health.
Absolutely.
You know?
And
We were
even-
designed to have social connectedness.
100%.
We are.
And even the way that it's changed the way the world works now, where people just don't have to talk to people anymore. You can do everything from your phone. I want to order food, drop it at my door. I don't want to have to talk to nobody or deal with anybody.
Doctor's appointments. People don't even go in to see their primary doctor. They just do it through telehealth.
Yeah.
Everything is telehealth.
Yeah, you don't even know what your therapist looks like. You're just
No, for
talking
real.
to this person.
And there
you
could
know?
be people in the background we don't even know, right? Because
At this point, you can just talk to AI and they'll just tell you how to fix your
No,
problem.
for real. Yo, ChatGPT,
Let me
my
just
head
say,
hurts.
ChatGPT introduces new feature where they put voice responses to the response that it gives
no.
you, and you quite literally. And I tried this for a good 30 minutes. You can have a conversation with ChatGPT and it will respond.
Oh yeah.
Sensical answers.
Yeah.
What, sensical, is that the right word? You know what I mean.
How do you think we get the titles for the YouTube, the
No,
Instagram?
no.
Instagram, not the YouTube,
He said,
Instagram.
don't take away my credit.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie.
Okay, wait. Okay,
A
so
little
let's-
bit, a little touch on it, you know.
So COVID-19. So let's hear about like your guys' experience and your take on it because
Oh, so for me, don't do the math, but I was a freshman. When school got cut, it was towards the end of the year. So, you know, I was in the peak of like, hey, I'm in high school now.
That's so
like,
terrible.
You know?
My
and then,
God.
And then I joined
Your
the
whole
volleyball.
high school experience was
I joined
COVID.
volleyball team.
Wait,
we were
were you-
undefeated.
Were you one of those people that had to do the Zoom graduations?
No.
No.
He graduated last year.
Yeah, I graduated last year. So I was good.
from college.
Yeah.
high school.
37,
Oh, my
no,
dog.
No, but so yeah, I was on volleyball. We were undefeated for so long. We lost a game, and then school got cut like right after
Wow.
that. Like the day after we lost our first game out of like
It
16.
was your fault.
Yeah, no, for real, I should have just did better.
Yeah, like what was that experience like for you where it was like, yeah,
Suddenly it was like, oh my god, like that's it. Like the world's ending. Everybody was like, that's it. We can't see each other no more. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Because I don't want COVID.
Yeah.
Because also we didn't know how it was transmitted, so it was like we were scared to even look out of our window because it was so
Right.
bad. And I was in a house with you know my two of my sisters and my parents, so it was like even we were like, you went to the store. Stay over
Yeah,
there.
I
Like,
know.
so it was crazy.
did you do virtual school?
Yes. For the last like quarter of school, it was like virtual school. But
Yeah.
even the teachers were kind of confused on how to do it. So it was like I did like a few assignments every day. Didn't join no calls.
What was it like when you had to go back into
Yeah. So the next
school?
year was like a full year in school, and then that's when it was like Zoom calls and like I was up at my computer, and then they would get mad if you were like in your bed. Like you can't do it in your bed. You have to be like in your living room, and it was crazy. So it was really bad. When I went back into school, it was like, hi guys. Like at the end of that year, I had to do state testing. Like they brought back state
wow.
testing. So like
Oh my gosh.
in COVID, it was like now you have to go to school with a
Wait,
mask.
right, because you had to come back with the masks.
Yes. So it was
So-
like now you're masked up. Now like all these people, you don't recognize nobody.
What was it like in the school? Like when you guys all came back to the school?
They kind of like try to do it gradually, where you had the option if you wanted to stay online or you could go to school. So classes had like 3-4 kids in it, and they would have like panels and everything, like so you don't touch each other.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, this was
yeah.
not that long ago, guys.
Yeah,
this was
I
like a few
know.
years ago. And then you know when I finally went back for the testing, it was like 30 of us in a classroom, and we were like, put a chair between us because you're too close. Like,
Yeah.
so trying to like distance ourselves because we didn't know like if it's for real. And then there were people like taking down their masks. Everyone's like, hey, put it back on, put it back on.
Yeah.
So it was, but it was like awkward. Like we didn't know how to socialize with each other. I was texting you throughout the whole COVID thing, but I had no idea what you looked like because, you know, we couldn't see each
Wow.
other. So then like, I remember there was this person that like we had 2 of the classes. I gave her answers for one of my classes. She'd give me answers for the other one, you
Oh
know?
my goodness.
Kind of like, you know.
little buddy system.
Yeah.
I got you.
She went up, she was like, oh my God, John, it's crazy to see you in person. I was like, who? What? Who are you?
Oh my god.
It was so awkward. And she was like, oh, it's me. I was like, oh, hey. I didn't know how to socialize. It was so
Yeah.
weird. I was talking to my sisters and my dog. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to talk to you.
I can't even imagine because I knew some people in high school that I felt like they didn't know how to socialize at all, and they were in high school every day, all day. I can't imagine those same people
today.
Not going
With
to
no
school.
practice.
Yeah, right. With no.
And that's what it is.
Bro.
And that's why so many people have that, because they weren't put in those situations to really like learn how to socialize.
Yeah.
So, because my experience was very different than yours, because I had already been graduated at that point, and I was working, I was paying bills, and I was working in the service industry. So they were shut down, and I was like, oh my God. But bills were still needing to get paid,
no.
and you were still having to figure that out. And then it just turned into this thing where you're just kind of at home. And then what else are you going to do other than drink? And then you're drinking all the time. Then it turns into just like, all right, so this is how I'm going to make my time fun now, is I'm going to just get drunk and just play games and watch stupid movies all day, because what am I going to do with my life, you know? And it was definitely
so
different.
For people that were already struggling with their mental health, like COVID really made it even more of a struggle.
Absolutely. Because I'm someone who has that like social anxiety piece where I get so anxious to have to call people or to have to go interact with people that I've never interacted with before. And I find myself even like, okay, well, I don't want to have to deal with these people, so I'm just going to go on my phone and do it this way rather than actually going and meeting new people and talking face to face.
Which actually helps you when you
Exactly.
do that.
And then it became this depression where like at the start of COVID, I had a relationship of 2 years, and then COVID hits, it hit the rocks, our relationship. I found out like some stuff that was going on, and you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm ever going to meet any other person ever again.
Wow.
So I might just have to stay with this person and figure it out, even though it's not a good situation. And it was that whole trauma of like, how are we just going to navigate life in a normal way?
Yeah. There was so much uncertainty. you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you already don't have those built up relationships, you're kind of like, who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to tap into? Like, who can I like develop that? Like you were still in school, so you still kind of had to have contact with some people.
A little bit.
I didn't have to. So it was just like,
Nothing
how
was
am I going to
driving you to
meet
do
people
it.
now? Like, where am I going to meet people? I can't just go out and meet them. Like,
Everything was closed.
And nothing's been the same since. Like,
absolutely
At all.
not.
everything's changed. Like there wasn't like COVID happened and then we reintegrated into the same community. No, COVID happened and everything changed. You
Yeah.
know, and so it's like, how do we navigate from that space into this new space and create, you know, what we need as a community, right? Which is that aspect of like social connections. There was the convenience with technology, but I also think it's a double-edged sword, because now that convenience has become the hindrance that has led to more challenges, you know. And when you're looking at, you know, people who are struggling with that social connectedness, we've already talked about community and having connection and things like that is important for any human being. And so now you make it a way where you don't need to do that at all, right, to live. And so people are opting for that out of the convenience, not realizing that it's actually
absolutely.
hindering their
With
mental
great
health.
reward comes great risks. And that was that. Like, yeah, we got that technology piece of like, oh, the world is developing this. But at the same time, the other side of the world is kind of like not knowing how to incorporate the two together.
Yeah.
As far as it's normal to go online and like Bumble's a big thing, Tinder, Hinge.
Were they
But
doing,
how
were,
many
were
of
those
these people-
platforms going during COVID?
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
were
sure
they
they
popular?
were.
Oh, yeah.
No, I wasn't on them.
They were.
I just became old enough to make an account, y'all.
Yeah,
A lot of
like
the ways
a
that
lot of
people-
people like got
They were.
used to like just messaging each other. Like they never met these people in real life, but like they were still talking to them.
Oh yeah, they were.
That was their way of like I'm gonna go network a little bit.
I forgot exactly where I saw this. I think it was one of those late night talk show people, and they were making jokes about how COVID increased the usage of Tinder, Bumble,
absolutely.
Hinge, OkCupid, whatever, right? It increased it all, like
Absolutely.
dramatically.
Wow.
You
And I
can-
was like, oh my god.
Well, that makes sense, because what are we lacking? Social connectedness. So what are they seeking?
1,000%.
Social
I
connectedness.
guarantee you, it's so much easier for someone to go on Hinge or whatever, see someone's profile, be like, oh, that person's good looking, match with them, and then be like, hey, how are you doing? Compared to you're out and wherever you're Dave and Buster's and you see somebody and you're like, oh, that person's good looking, you're not gonna go up to them and like try to have the same conversation that you would if you saw them on like that type of platform.
And then talking about how like with you where it was already a challenge, now even more so, I come back into the community, it's hard for me to make friends. Okay. So this brings me to my next question. So how do you think we can better support each other as a community when it comes to mental health issues, particularly among young adults, especially after we've kind of discussed all of these factors that are hindering youth?
Okay, so I would say like kind of what I touched on before, like you just gotta find your place. Like you're not. Yes, we're very social like creatures, but you're not supposed to get along with everybody. Like you're not going to. And if you try to like change yourself to where, you know, these people only like hanging out with this type of person, so I'm gonna try to become that type of person, you're kind of feeding away from like you're not yourself, and then it's gonna build up inside you like I don't feel right doing these things. And that's kind of like what was a big thing for me. Like I was hanging out with people partying every day, and you know, and that I was like, all right, I guess I'm partying now, like you know. And I was over here waking up in other people's houses, like, and like I would have that like guilt, and they're like, oh, we're gonna do it again tomorrow. I was like, we're gonna do it again tomorrow.
I think like, too is like normalizing it and like, normalizing having those conversations, because you'll be more okay with talking to your friends about like, yeah, I got so drunk last night, I was hungover, but you're not gonna tell them like, oh, I got so drunk last night, I hit a depression, and like I was like, having those suicidal ideations.
I had
That's true.
That's actually very valid.
Yeah,
no, it really is.
Because alcohol is a
point.
depressant.
I'll tell my friends, yo, I just blacked out last night. But like you said, you're not going to tell them, like, hey, I just cried because I was sad for some whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No, and it's true. Like, there's a...
Especially with men.
If,
that's another,
if my mom sees this, I'm sorry. But there's a point where, like, I woke up and, like, I just met this guy the day before. Like, me and a guy who was my friend, he was, like, introduced me to this man, and he was like, oh, yeah, you know, I got the house to myself. We have a bar. All right, cool. We go. It's literally like 5 of us. We're drinking like crazy. I needed help to get to the bathroom because I was throwing up. The next morning, I'm like drunk texting my boss. I can't come in. I sat in the bathroom and like cried because I was like this is what I'm doing with my life. Like this is like, and that was like really the turning point. Like it's crazy. And mind you, guys, I'm 19. Like I'm not even supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
This is back then. But you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Mom would be proud.
But yeah, so I like sat in the bathroom. I was like, this is like terrible. I put my back to the mirror because I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I think this perfectly transitions into a question that I want to ask. What do you think might be some challenges that young adults face today that maybe adults or teenagers maybe don't face? Because if we're talking about perspective, there has to be some differences, right? It can't be all like we don't all share the same story, right? So what do you think might be some challenges that people closer to our age face compared to those of like adults who are above 30 or something like
the
that?
economy.
Expectations.
Both of those are really good. No.
You go first.
Go ahead. Yeah. This is great.
Well, I mean, I grew up and it was that my stepdad and my dad both are not born in America. They both came. My dad from Jamaica, my stepdad from Africa. I love both of them. I'm very close to both of them. But it's that like, oh, well, I came here and I was able to build a life, move into my own house at 20, whatever, and sustain that and start a family. And I'm 25. I have a family now and I'm living on my own. But like the mortgage for my 1-1 apartment is probably what they were paying for their 4-bedroom house that they're living in now.
Right.
And it's trying to explain like it's not that I don't want that. I would love that. But the economy, it's so much normal for people older to live with their family. Like people in their 30s are still living with their parents because it's just not sustainable.
Afford, yeah.
There's actually some something that came out about that there's this young generation that are living with their parents at that age, and to me, because of the economy, like when we look at like what's happening like in the world, obviously we live in Broward County, South Florida, where like, I mean, our prices, and we look at inflation and we look at all these things. But I also think that sometimes people feel like ashamed about that.
Absolutely.
When really like to me, that's a smart move for a young person that's trying to like really go out and sustain their living. And it's hard too, because you're a young adult, you're still living with your parents. For some reason, there's this idea that we all get, like at 18, it's freedom. But I've just been structured to be in a school, be told what to do, all of these things. And then at 18 years old, I want all of this freedom, but I'm not really sure how to go about it. And so it's like that transitioning into adulthood, which comes with like all of these responsibilities that we don't realize when we're young, but we want the freedom. But it's also about being equipped to be able to sustain that, and knowing that everybody's going to be at a different pace. And it's okay, because that comparison trap will get you every time. I'm looking on Instagram and I'm seeing, this YouTuber at, whatever, they're multi-millionaires.
The best sides of their lives.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to.
This is like really random. There's a YouTuber that's like 7 years old that all he does is review toys. The kid has millions.
Ryan's toy reviews.
There it is. You see? And then I'm over here, guys. I was like 17 getting like nothing. Like I was trying my best to get a job and I like couldn't. Like it was so hard.
That's his parents though, for sure. Like his parents
100%.
are exploiting the
It's not
heck out of
him.
that
It's not
kid.
him.
But it's a
But
I mean,
it goes to show how weird our economy is these days.
100%.
Like when you got what? He's 20. He just turned 24, I think. A 24-year-old college dropout who became a almost billionaire just by making YouTube videos.
Yeah, and then you hear those stories, and everyone's like, "I want to do that."
Right, and then it's like, but you see how strange the new modern economy is.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the economy is such a big factor. I hear with some of the participants that I work with, their constant challenges are like, I need an apartment. I need to find a place to live, and I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, people want, because essentially people want that independence, and I love to elevate young people to say like, that independence that they want is something that they're capable of achieving. But it's how do we equip youth and young adults, because it doesn't just look like this lined out thing. It could for some, where it's just like, boom, here it is, and this is, your track record, and you're going to just go on this plan, and you're going to, when you get out, this is what you're going to do, blah, blah. But that doesn't look the same for like majority of the population.
Of course.
Because people are different, and so I think that that's a huge challenge. Let's talk about expectations. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so like I kind of said before, my sisters kind of went off to college. And they moved out like as soon as they turned like 18, 19, they were gone. Like, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do the same. Boom, COVID. Dang. I can't do the same. So it was like it even looking for work was really hard. Like there was like, the year and a half after COVID, nobody wanted to go back to work. And then everybody kind of realized they kind of had to go back to work. So now everybody's flooding these jobs. So now for you to get a decent paying job, there's also 14, 15 other people looking for the same job, applying for the same position. So then it became super competitive just to get a job at McDonald's, guys. Like you're not even looking for anything crazy.
Yeah.
It's just everything, like, especially you're in high school, like everybody's looking, you only have certain things, maybe you want to do something in the area so you could take the bus there real quick. But there's also, 15 other people that go to your same high school that live near you that are also looking for close things.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. I know for when you're getting out of high school, it's really hard to like get work, trying to move out and everything. And you're kind of,
and then you're new, you don't have experience.
yeah,
so it's
and
like
you're
all
kind
these
of
things.
like, now, and you're like, yeah, I'm an adult, but I can't do adult things because like, how am I gonna do it?
or at least what are seen to be adult based on like old times. Like this is what an adult would do.
They were like, I was doing this when I was your age. I was
Yeah,
I was
and
crossing
that's what I
3
mean,
train
yeah.
tracks to get to my like what?
Yeah.
You know that,
You do hear those
God.
stories a
yeah, I was
lot.
like, I get you. Like, respect that. When I was my age,
I went through.
I couldn't even get out of my house because there was a disease going around. Like, I can't like. So it's like they're trying to compare their lives to your lives, like any
And it's
adult.
so different.
And I know, like sometimes naturally it just comes out like you want to like understand, so you kind of put yourself in their shoes, and then but the first thing you're gonna think of is like what did I do to compare to that? And it's like, my life is different, my thought process is different than yours, so it's really hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you all prioritize self-care and your mental health today, especially in like what we discussed, this fast-paced world where it's like very different, and how do you navigate that?
have your I think support groups are really good.
Yeah.
Like even if it's not like an official, like you're going out to a place, like get a couple friends. All you need is a few friends that like are comfortable talking to you, comfortable talking about like real things.
Yeah.
And just have like a day where, all right, guys, this Sunday we're gonna all come up to Nikki's house and we're gonna talk about, you know, how we've been feeling recently. We're gonna eat some food, listen to music, and that's it. It doesn't even have to be like an official, like, all right, guys, you know, I know we've been going through this. It could be like, all right, we're just gonna pull up and music, food, you know, and just that like interaction is just like so like that's like a recharge to your meter.
That's so awesome. You know what's funny is like I feel like I know the secret sauce to like people, like helping people, and it's legitimately connection, conversation, community. Right? And when you just said that, it just made me think about like how powerful that is, in the sense of like that's something that can improve people's mental health and well-being, is when they find that tribe and they have those conversations, create those connections, and they're thriving within a community. All right, Nikki.
I think that it's too about learning about yourself and like spending that time with yourself and knowing what it is that you personally need. Like, I love my friends, and I have two very close friends that are gonna watch this, and they're probably gonna figure out which one am I. But I have one specific friend that like I will go to for certain things, and then the other one for other things, depending upon what it is I'm looking for.
Like knowing your crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
Know your audience.
Yeah, but knowing myself and knowing what I need in that moment. Like, do I need my friend who's gonna sit there and just let me talk and not interrupt me, or do I need that friend who's gonna cut me off and be like, no, like you, exactly.
And they're both valid.
Exactly, but it's knowing what I need at what time. Because if I go to the one friend who's gonna cut me off and it's just me wanting to vent, I'm gonna get upset at him and be like, stop cutting me off. Like, I'm trying to tell you what I'm feeling and you're not letting me, you know?
It's a him, guys.
But
Start writing it down.
It's a him.
Do you think that you know when those moments are actually arising? Like, you're saying, I want to go to this friend when I need this, I need this when I need this. But how do you know you don't need like a harsh criticism when you think you just need,
But
you know?
it's just knowing how like I'm gonna react to it. Because if like when you're looking for someone's opinion and when you're just looking to vent. And when you're looking to vent and someone's giving you unsolicited advice, you know
it's the most annoying thing.
Exactly. It's not gonna do anything for you. Whether or not you need it at that moment.
And I agree with you 100%. But let's say if someone's venting to you about something that maybe you absolutely disagree with, like that's like they're venting to you about not to ever invalidate, because that's something I struggle with. And I was gonna say before, like I'm always someone that kind of like to push the envelope, play devil's advocate, but I never want to invalidate someone's feelings. I never want to make anyone feel like I don't care about your opinion or how you truly feel about the situation.
Yeah.
But it's just how to go about it, you know, without doing that.
I think it's important
because I think you do need those people in your life that really do push
she
it.
has, and she knows she needs them. I think it's more so knowing yourself in that moment to say like
when
right
you need
now,
them.
yeah, because I get that. There's times where I have this problem in my life, and I know I have this problem. I'm not coming to you for the solution. I'm really just coming to process because I already know the solution.
And do you communicate that with
Yeah,
the person?
I was gonna
because
say
I
that
will
too.
say again, coming from a standpoint of someone that usually likes to give advice, or even if I'm not even in the person that should be giving advice, I like to at least give like an opinion on something.
So you're
But,
my
like,
brother, and I know that, and that's why I
100%.
don't go to you for certain
Yeah,
stuff.
and that's the thing. If someone like comes to me and they're like, they just want to vent and they don't want my opinion at all, and they don't communicate that to me at all, and then I'm gonna obviously give them something back.
And sometimes part of it too is like, if someone's coming to you, it's just asking them, because maybe they don't know either until you ask them, like, okay, do you want me to give you like my opinion? Like, do you want my advice?
And that's
or
where
do
I
you just want to just talk?
And that's where I struggle as well as other people, because they'll be like, well, you're going to get my advice how I want to give it, you know?
Yeah,
like,
'cause some
I'm not going to
people-
help you how you want to be helped, you know? And that's where I struggle, where like, as if like, maybe one day you don't want to sit down and talk about something that's bothering you, and I'm in the moment where I do, and then there's a day where you do, and then I don't. So it's about working around that, obviously, with the person, if it's the situation's revolving around them, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
and
think
communicating it.
Yeah, I was
And
just gonna say, I
that's
think
the main thing.
communicating from both sides.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to Kayla and be like, Kayla, I just want advice right now, and I know
I'll be like, I am not
I don't
want to
be lectured. Yeah.
you know,
or I am.
You know, so it's like ask for what you're looking
What you're
for.
looking- yeah.
Absolutely.
I think you learn that too when you become more confident in who you are and you know who you are. Like, I will preface like, hey, Joncarlos, I'm just coming to you because I just need a soundboard. I'm venting. I'm not really looking for a solution, but can you sit with me to process through this? And then
I think it's, and then at that point, it's up to me. Like, if I know I'm that type of person that's like, hey, I'm gonna give you advice anyway. I'm like, listen, I know Nikki's really good at listening, and I know you guys are very close. So maybe because I know sometimes, especially with me, and I know if my girlfriend sees this, she's gonna say it too. Like, I'm very much like action. Like, you tell me a problem, I'm gonna give you like 7 solutions for it.
Let's do this. Let's plan this. Let's talk to this.
Let's make this appointment. If let's do this and that. And she's like, dog, I was just telling you because it makes me feel better just to tell you.
Yeah. But you know what? As you grow in your awareness of that, like, you also grow in your emotional intelligence to say, like, okay, I know I have a tendency to do this, but I can pause and just like the art of listening, active listening, and because it's really a you problem because you wanting to fix somebody and you're feeling uncomfortable.
For real. I'm trying to be the savior.
And it's like,
Yeah, it's a bit of like a savior complex, exactly. It's like you're always trying to be the answer to everybody's problem, and it's like, again, I struggle with this, not to like a severe. I mean, maybe sometimes, but I think I at least acknowledge that I struggle with it. Versus some people absolutely do not.
Right. Yeah.
They think everything that they say is gospel, and there's nothing really around it. Versus me, like, you could say, oh, you're wrong. And I'm like, damn, I am kind of wrong.
Yeah. But even then, too, like, sometimes what works for one person doesn't work for another. So, like, you can give your advice that worked for you and be like, well,
Very
for
true.
me in that situation, this is how I dealt with it.
Especially
And,
because
like,
we're girls and boys.
and you're
different.
giving that avenue of like, okay, that's an idea of something I can do, but they might have to go and discover their own way, and they might talk to multiple different people, get multiple different ideas to be able to be like, all right, I'm gonna try these things. But I'm at that point where I know for certain things, like, but I've had to work through that, and like I've had to learn that. And that's what I'm talking about, like getting really to know yourself.
It's huge. I think that's huge. I always tell people, get a PhD in you. It'll be the best education you ever get.
Absolutely.
So.
I like that.
Yeah. So I think this perfectly takes us to the last question I want to ask you. We asked it last week for the family perspective, and I want to ask it again today, and I want to ask it in every episode because, again, I want to get the perspective of this question from different people, different mindsets. I want you to finish this sentence for me, and I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. Mental health matters to me because. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. Guys, we want to thank you so much for watching. We are so excited to see what comes next. Like we said, this is going to be a month-long series. We've still got 2 more to go. And if next week's episode gets to happen, trust me, guys, you're going to want to tune in. It's going to be extra special. And then we're going to end off our series with My Story Matters to kind of cap off our Mental Health Matters series. So we appreciate you joining us on this journey, and we can't wait to see you on the next one as well. So back to you. Mental health matters to me because...
Do you want me to go first?
I mean, I can. Mental health matters because I feel like it drives everything. I remember towards the end of COVID, I found out I was getting cheated on after 2 years, and that was like my lowest. Like, I was intentionally getting, blacked out and everything. And just because, I didn't want to get out of bed. It was like after, I got better, I started going to the gym and everything, but I didn't want to get out of bed to go get food. Like, just because my mental was stopping my physical from like anything. I had no energy for anything like that. So it was like, once I got in a headspace, I kind of got my support group and everything. It was like, all right, we're going to go to the gym together. We're going to do this together. I didn't feel like I was tackling the world, tackling the world by myself. Yeah. So, and that just now, I could talk on a podcast about it, and I'm happy, I could smile.
Yeah,
and
before we like your smile.
Yeah.
No, but on a real note, I think your mind attaches to your body, and it vice versa. If you're not physically, if you don't feel you're physically okay, then your mental is gonna drag down. And if you're not mentally okay, then your physical is gonna drag down. Yeah. So I think
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it does.
So that's my take.
Oh man, should have went first. That's hard to follow. I mean, yeah. I mean, he does sum it up very well with that. Is your mental health is it's your brain. It's you. That is you, and it affects everything in your life. How how your success is gonna go and where you're willing to put in work and different things like that. Because I know when I'm down and out, like I don't want to get up out of bed. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go do things that I need to sustain my life. But I've gotten to the point in my life where even though I don't want to, I'm okay with pushing myself past that, like discomfortability.
Absolutely.
And working through my mental health rather than letting it become that barrier of like, no, I have anxiety and I don't want to leave the house today because I'm going to increase it. Whereas I'm one of those who is like, I'm going to face it. I'm going to face it head on and I'm going to work through it. And that's my take on that.
For sure.
Awesome.
Alrighty then. Well, I think that is our episode.
Yeah.
One more time, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. And as you saw, there was a lot of movement today. We had a very special guest.
Yes. Who
Yes.
has a
Get
big
a witch.
story that we will
Yes.
share one of
Yeah,
these days.
we're gonna share.
Yeah, so
her
that'll
big
keep you guys
story
coming because
one of
there's an
these days.
amazing story that involves this beautiful little girl right here, Leilani. She is a member of the crew. We're
Say
getting
hi.
her podcast ready. She wanted you all to hear her voice today.
Leilani,
And
say hi.
she's wearing a green headband to show you all mental health matters.
There you go. There you go. So please
It's
like,
okay,
please
mamas,
subscribe,
it's okay.
share the podcast
It's okay,
everywhere you
baby.
can. And to all our lovely audio listeners, we see you, we love you, and we are so thankful for every single one of you. We'll see you all in the next one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.